Next up, it's our press review with Solange Moujon. Solange, you are starting off with the World Cup. It is, of course, kicking off in Qatar on Sunday.
Yeah, and generally there is great euphoria about the World Cup, excitement leading up to it. But as we see on the cover of The Guardian Weekly this week, with its headline, here we go, the politics and human rights and environmental concerns have punctured Qatar's World Cup. For L'Humanité, it says that this time the football party is just impossible this year because of the thousands of migrants who lost their lives building the stadiums. And that is also being felt in Doha, as we see on the Community Daily 20 Minutes. It's an arid ambiance, it says, in Qatar, being felt there just 2 days before it begins. And that is a major disappointment for Qatar, as we can understand better through this podcast through line about the World Cup. It's a look into why the country focused on football to glorify its image. And it's a good overview and excellent listen of the nation's goals with this cup. As for La Croix, this one, there is a general fatigue going on at the moment, exhaustion. It wonders how long, in its editorial, it wonders how long fans will accept that the football world is on another planet, that its values that it says represents are so far from the truth of what FIFA and this cup are. For many fans, though, they have a little devil and angel on their head, the devil saying, but it's only once every 4 years, and the little angel saying, but think of the environment and human rights. Now, another cartoon, this is from Libération and Coco. You have Emmanuel Macron, who said yesterday that one mustn't politicize sports, which he says there, and then you have a little decency. He says here, as he sits on arms contracts, gas contracts, and petrol ones. Now, for the UK paper New European, there is no need to be wish-washing about it. The UK paper says, enjoy this World Cup. His dad died to make it happen, referring there to the migrants who lost their lives making this World Cup occur.
Well, from politics and sport to actual politics, Solange, you're turning to the US now, where Nancy Pelosi has announced she will be stepping down from her position as head of the House.
Yeah, she is, not only is she the first female Speaker of the House, but she is, as the Washington Post tells us, it writes that she is one of the House's most consequential leaders, wielding her power more effectively than any speaker in the last century, end quote. But at 82, there does come a time to step down. Quoting the Bible, the Post cartoonist Michael de Adder has Pelosi with the title, for everything there is a season. We have her wielding sunglasses and her sneaky little smile as she walks on. Now, for the Times, the New York Times, Pelosi, history will remember Pelosi for her being the first female speaker, but for the Times, above all else, she is a badass because of, they say, her effectiveness, pragmatism, cleverness, and endless energy. Quote, love her or hate her, you have to acknowledge the fundamental badassery. End quote. Now, as for who will replace her, Reuters, it says that her successor could be another first. Hakeem Jeffries could become the first black man to potentially hold a leadership position or minority position in the House. But as Vox tells us, he has big shoes to fill, all the while trying to unite the Democrats and also deal with a Republican majority that's vowing to curb Biden's agenda.
It's been a bit of a roller coaster, Solange, for taxpayers in the UK. They are now facing into new belt tightening measures announced by the Finance Minister.
Yeah, and it's to the tune of £55 billion, half of which will come from a rise in taxes. And the Times says that there are years of tax pains ahead, with Brits already facing a record fall in living standards. Now, things are going to go from bad to worse, says The Guardian. In its editorial, it writes that Jeremy Hunt's plan is, quote unquote, a trap, it says. Setting a trap for Labour or to scare voters into austerity, and that what is work here is less about curbing inflation, they say, than about turning the voters' attention away from Tory failures. Now, the FT, the Financial Times, it doesn't totally agree with this. It says that this plan will help restore the UK's credibility, but then, like The Guardian, it says that the country has gotten here by self-reinforcing cycle of bad decisions that Conservatives must take much of the blame for, end quote. Meanwhile, The Scotsman, it says, nightmare before Christmas. This is actually a headline that is on a number of papers today about this tax plan and this austerity measures. Now, as for The Independent, they put it quite visually. Here you have Jeremy Hunt as the Grim Reaper, and he was inspired and guided by his predecessor, George Osborne, who carried out the previous round of austerity measures.
Finally, Solange, you are leaving us with a little bit of Christmas cheer nearly into December. It's not too early for that, is it?
Time magazine says that it's time for cuddly toys, Legos, and puzzles. It explains that it's not just kids that like toys, but rather adults as well. That since COVID, toy manufacturers have changed their target audiences. Noticing that adults play as well, they are now in the kidult market. Now, for those of you that aren't into toys, but rather into Christmas carols, I have another article for you. This is about the Queen of Pop. Some say she wants to be known as Queen of Christmas, but it didn't work. Mariah Carey has lost her trademark battle for being the Queen of Christmas, thanks to her All You Want for Christmas Is You song. The courts decided that anyone and everyone has the right to be the Queen of Christmas.
Well, it's still a Christmas cracker and one of the classics. Solange, thank you so much for our press review. That's Solange Moujon. You will be with us again a little bit later on in the programme. Well, coming up,